Winston Churchill said that when you're young, if you're not a liberal, you don't have a heart. And when you're old, if you're not a conservative, you don't have a brain. The Washington Post has an article out today, or this weekend, that indicates similar things. Millennials like socialism is the title of the article, until they get jobs. Millennials are the only age group in America in which a majority views socialism favorably. A National Reason Group survey found that 53% of Americans under age 30 have a favorable view of socialism, compared with less than a third of those over 30. Moreover, Gallup has found that an astounding 69% of millennials say they'd be willing to vote for a socialist candidate for president. Among their parents' generation, only one-third would do so. Indeed, national polls and exit polls reveal about 70 to 80% of young Democrats are casting their ballots for presidential candidate Bernie Sanders, who calls himself a democratic socialist. Yet millennials tend to reject the actual definition of socialism: government ownership of the means of production or government running businesses. Only 32% of millennials favor an economy managed by the government. So are they socialists or aren't they? They're just lacking in knowledge of basic definitions. That's interesting. And as millennials age and begin to earn more, their socialistic ideals seem to slip away, according to the data. Coming of age during the Great Recession, millennials aren't sure if free markets are sufficient to drive income mobility, and thus many are comfortable with government helping to provide for people's needs. A recent study found that 69% of millennials favor a government guarantee for health insurance, and 54% support a guarantee for a college education. So will that last? Are millennials ushering in a sea change of public opinion? Do they signal the transformation of the United States into a Scandinavian social democracy? Well, it depends. There is some evidence that this generation's views on activist government will stick. However, there is more reason to expect that for the Scandinavian version of socialism may wither as they age and make money and pay more in taxes. The expanded social welfare state Sanders thinks the United States should adopt requires everyday people to pay considerably more in taxes. Yet millennials become averse to social welfare spending if they foot the bill. As they reach the threshold of earning $40,000 to $60,000 a year, the majority of millennials come to oppose income redistribution, including raising taxes to increase financial assistance to the poor. Similarly, the research poll found that while millennials still on their parents' health insurance policy supported the idea of paying higher premiums to help cover the uninsured, 57% support flipped, or 57% supported higher premiums while they were on their parents' policies. Support flipped among millennials paying for their own health insurance, with 59% opposed to higher premiums. When tax rates are not explicit, millennials say they'd prefer larger government offering more services. That's 54% of them said that. To smaller government offering fewer services, 43%. However, when larger government offering more services is described as requiring higher taxes, support flips. And 57% of millennials opt for smaller government with fewer services and lower taxes. Sounds like a conservative or something. While only 41% at that point prefer large government. See, I'm 55 years old, and I am a huge fan of the millennial generation. And so that makes me a little bit unusual among my age group that reads articles like this and where they're feeling the burn and all that stuff. I've got a whole bunch of millennials working for me on our team, and I hear employers when I'm doing leadership training all over the United States say, millennials are really tough to hire, they're really tough to hire, they're really tough to get good ones, they're really tough to get good ones. Listen, it's really tough to get good people. I don't care what generation they are. It's tough to get people who are ambitious, who care, who are talented, who are passionate, who actually work while they're at work and don't steal. That's just tough of any generation. It's not a racial thing. It's not a male-female thing. It's not an age group thing. It's tough to get good people on your team. I got 560 of them in here, and they're good people. And if one of them isn't, they'll be gone soon. It's a tough thing to run a business and get good people. And we love millennials here because there's only two types, awesome and sucks. And they tell you, they're real honest. I suck. I believe in the burn. And I want you to give me free stuff, and I'm going to sit on my butt because I was born on third base and I think I hit a triple. They'll tell you that. Or they come in here and go, and you're changing the world, Dave, and I want to be part of something that's changing the world. You're saving marriages, and people are getting out of debt and changing family trees, and I'm a crusader, and man, I want to be on board on something like that. And they plug in here, and they'll outwork a baby boomer 3-1 because they care so deeply. They're crusaders. I love them. I think millennials are awesome. But what this article is pointing out is when you have to pay the bill to go with your philosophies, when you have to write a check and put your dadgum money where your mouth is, it suddenly puts your philosophies to the test. It changes your philosophies from something that's real when you have to look at your children and make decisions about your children because what you're sending to Washington goes up, called taxes. That's different than sitting around a campfire smoking weed and discussing philosophy. It's different. Everybody's a dadgum philosopher when they don't have to write the checks. Everybody's an economist until they start writing the checks. Let me give you an example. I'm 55, as I said. So the kids that were my babysitters, the girls in the neighborhood that were 6 years older than me, which would put them in their 60s now, that was the hippie generation. That was the long hair, burning flags, protesting the Vietnam War. They were a bunch of communists, not socialists. They believed in communes were popping up. Let me just tell you, it's very difficult to find anyone that is much more of a capitalist than an old hippie. You meet an old hippie in their 60s, they're a Deadhead, they're a Grateful Dead fan. You meet an old hippie in their 60s, they are flaming capitalists. They figured out through the scope of their life that communism is a failed event. It's a failed system. And they adopted the best system on earth, which is capitalism. Same thing will happen to the misguided millennials once they start writing the checks. And that's what this data shows. So there's great hope for this nation. Don't be disappointed in this younger generation. They're following their heart rather than their brain. It'll come to them. They're good people. We're going to be all right, America. Bernie's not going to get elected. Don't you worry. This is the Dave Ramsey Show. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, click the subscribe button to get the latest content and check out these other great clips from the show. So you have to break the cycle. You have to flip this thing on its head and make it behave. You've got to get so fired up and wired up that your broke friends think you've lost your mind.